What's up, guys? It's Damp again, and I am now playing this game called Steel Ocean. You can see here it is actually one of the most popular new releases on Steam, with about 70 to 75% positive reviews. I think it's a pretty good game so far. I think it needs some work, but like everything, it's completely free to play. But I've been doing some research on like the Reddit postings and on the Steam forums, and I really didn't see a strong tutorial for the Submarine, which I think is really the most difficult ship to play. So I kind of wanted to take you through some things that I've learned in the first, 80 hours that you may have missed or maybe you kind of need some help with. I'll run through them kind of quickly and hopefully it helps. So starting out, a lot of people disregard the tutorial that's up here, but you can get a solid amount of money, and at one point when you're between on your tech tree, when you're somewhere in through here, typically around 3 to 4, you'll run into a bottleneck of silver where you need more silver. The tutorial is a great place to get it, and actually you'll probably learn some things that you're going to assume you already knew just by starting in the game, but there is an auto run, which is R, FYI. I missed that because I skipped the tutorials, but that made my life so much better. So if you hit R a few times, you can actually basically auto run or autopilot yourself, not to a waypoint necessarily, but at least you can go in one direction, which does help in case you need to, look around and, there's all kinds of things you want to do, maybe text or whatever while you're playing. So that's just a basic note, and that's some of the things you can learn with the tutorial. I would definitely not play an aircraft carrier until you've taken a tutorial, as it's pretty complex. Anyway, moving on. So just kind of starting out, one of the things I definitely recommend is you're going to click this event tab and go through these and read these. You actually can unlock commanders when you first start out just by getting a certain level ship, which are usually between 2 and 3 on your tech tree. Usually it's some of these ships here, depending on the type of ship that it is, but basically what happens is when you unlock those, you get commanders, and these will give you passives. Like you can see highlighted in the blue are everything that are active. And I can do another video on commanders if you guys need it, just to kind of give you the basics. But everything that's highlighted in blue are passives you can get, which are, some of them can be pretty strong depending on your commander. So if we look at this commander, you can see he has 2 stars in the bottom left above his 5. That's how rare he is. Here's one that's has the 3 stars, and then as you go through, you'll see, like here where it says demand level 4. When he gets to level 4, which is levels in the bottom left underneath his stars, when he gets to level 4, he unlocks that ability. Now these ones that say excellent, they actually require a lot more work, and I'll explain that in another video. But really, you just want to concentrate on doing anything you can to unlock these commanders. Another way you can get these commanders is this merit. So when you complete the dailies, like for right now, let me see what they have. They did have Tora 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 for a while. I'm not sure what the dailies are that are currently there, but there's also a weekly where you can get 540 merit as soon as you win 15 battles. That means you would go here. You're going to left click and go to Recruit a Commander, and then they cost 180 merit per. You want to unlock these as soon as possible because you can get those guys that maybe are 3 stars, or it doesn't really benefit you to save up more money or more merit rather to get a larger pack. It's still going to cost you the same thing. But these passives are really strong, and I would highly recommend filling these out as soon as possible, even if it's not typically the type of guy for your ship, because even a very little bit of a passive could make the difference for you. So let's go into the subs, and as we look at the tech tree, a couple things, like if you look at the German U-boats, these are typically more, and just this is just generally speaking, not for all of them, but just as I played, they're more agile, they're harder to hit, but they're less offensive. Like if you look at the Tier 2 German ship, it has 3 torpedo tubes. If you look at the American Tier 2, it has 4 torpedo tubes. Then if we look at the Japanese Tier 2, it's got 4. But you'll see that it has their level, or Tier 3 rather, has 4 tubes in the front and 2 in the rear, whereas the American won't. So generally speaking, as you go to a Japanese ship, the Japanese ships are a lot more offensive, but they're also longer, which is a disadvantage. I'd say they're maybe a little bit faster than the American ships. They're a little bit longer, which makes them easier to hit, but they are more offensive. They're definitely not nearly as agile as the German ships. So the American one is like, this would be, these ships here are really middle of the pack. They're kind of average, or, you know, like Mario in Mario Kart, how he doesn't necessarily have one thing better than the others. He's typically middle of the road. That's what these are. When you go to the Japanese subs, they're going to be a little more offensive, and then the Germans are a little better defensively, and they're a lot more agile, making them better in ship-to-ship combat, especially up close. So as you look at strengths of a submarine and why you'd want to play it, they're going to do high damage with their torpedoes, which is good. They're able to submerge, so if you hit Z twice, you can actually submerge under torpedoes if you get there fast enough. And you can sit at that level. It uses more oxygen, but when you sit submerged, you can actually duck under torpedoes because they'll be going almost at surface level or pretty close to it. Obviously, being a submarine, you can be submerged and you're going to deter detection. And they have a pretty big advantage versus the slower type of ships, like the battleships, and like down here, these battleships noted with BB, and then the carriers, which are noted as CV. Now, in game, up in the top right, you're looking for triangles and squares. That's who you're going to be best at. Focus in on those. They have typically the least detection range of a submarine, and you want to wait until you get in within about 1,000 meters to fire most of the time. That way it doesn't allow them to dodge, because they still are pretty fast, even though their size is big. So the weaknesses to a submarine and why you wouldn't want to play it is they're very slow, generally speaking, compared to other ships. And you slow down the more you're submerged. You also have the oxygen level that you have to manage, which is like another facet, making it a little more difficult to keep your mind on avoid torpedoes, try and aim your torpedoes, manage your oxygen level. They're not a very good scout. And because they're so slow, you can go games where you don't get any points, like very, very little, because the game's over before you can even get to where the action is sometimes. They're also a very easy target, in my opinion, for destroyers and light cruisers. So this game's kind of like rock, paper, scissors. You're going to be great against the triangles and the squares. When it comes to the diamonds and the slashes, they're really the guys you want to look out for. They pretty easily can tear you up because of how agile they are. And they're very slow. I mean, there are many times that if you're not starting out in a good spawn point, you might not necessarily get any action. You may not get any kills. And with their torpedoes being harder to aim, that also means that it can be frustrating for a newer player because you don't know when to pull the trigger. One thing I do want to mention is you're going to get into sub-to-sub combat, and a big misconception, and maybe one of the best tips I can give you, is aim for the surface shadow, not the submerged one. You will miss. Aim for the shadow that shows up on the surface of the water, not the one underneath, because you will definitely miss. A lot of people are like, oh, that torpedo went right through that sub. Well, it didn't. You aimed at the wrong one. You want to aim at the one on the surface, which will help you. As far as equipment goes, I'll kind of show you what I'm using now, which is I'll just kind of show you here. So the chain loader, again, pretty expensive, 120K. Obviously, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Decrease the torpedo reloading time. I'm also using the scouting range by 400 meters. Even though it's not a good scout, there are some games that you will be able to get some discoveries. I may change this out for sonar range in the future. It's just something I've been playing around with. And then I also have hyperpulse generator, which reduces your sonar detection time, and that's simply really for sub-to-sub combat, making it easier to get sub kills. So that's why I have those. If you have other opinions, please put them in the comments below and let us know what you're using and what you find successful for you. Kind of a couple other things just to touch on real quick. I would recommend, as you progress through the tech tree, making a ship elite. So in order to make it elite, you have to unlock everything on the ship. and equip the best item on the ship, like these torpedoes, for example, here, and then unlock the next ship above it. Now, what that will do is gives you this little symbol, and it makes the ship elite. You can use that if you check this little box up here. Once it's elite, you can do quick training. You can see I can't click it here. Quick training, rather. But I can click it here, and by clicking that, each commander will get a fifth of the ship's XP. So instead of using it for the ship XP or being global, you can train your commanders, which is something I'd recommend. Because your commanders being low level doesn't, the higher they are, the better it is, obviously. So that's something I would recommend, is getting all your ships to elite as you're progressing. People ask about the best upgrade as they're newer players. I don't know that there is one truly. It depends on your play style, realistically, but if you look at some of the things I've unlocked, like on this, I focused initially on upgrading the radio and the sonar. But let's be honest, if you want XP, you got to do more damage. That's the best way to get XP in the game. And in order to get more damage, you have to upgrade your torpedoes. It's that simple. You're not going to be on the surface enough to really get use of the guns, in my opinion, to where you would spend this much XP on them. It's definitely worth it, though, to upgrade your engines, as we've already talked about how slow it is. And again, scouting range, it's okay, but this isn't really a great scout. It's not fast enough to be. You are going to get some scouts, but it's not really, that's not its purpose. So that's pretty much it. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Hopefully that gave you some tips. If you have any other tips, throw them in the comments below. And I'll try to make some more videos as I get a little more experience. I'm somewhere probably between 80 and 100 hours, I would imagine. And I'll throw down my fleet in the comments, that way you guys, or in the description, that way you guys can you can join us and hang out if you'd like, and try and build the fleet up a little bit. So thank you for watching. See you later.